Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. I have some quick announcements to make, but they're very important announcements. So, yay, we have on order copies of our new book, Man-Made, The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods. We are going to honor our pre-order availability, where if you go to the website, www.manmadethechronicles.com, and order a book till the end of the month, we will be, one, shipping it with no shipping and handling charge, as well as it will be signed by myself and my co-author, Wayne LaLiberty. Now, how can you pass up a bargain like that? Also, Just Energy Radio is going to be moving networks, so the show's not going away. I'm not going away, but we will no longer be airing live on Blog Talk. We are moving to the Inception Radio Network, which is going to be a very cool thing, other than having an engineer to handle all of our little technical difficulties, which is good. Inception Radio Network, they have a little app that you can download to your iPhone or your Android. It's available on TuneIn Radio, and they're working on a whole bunch of other distribution channels, so you can listen to Just Energy Radio in your car or in your home or anywhere you go. You can hang out with me. That's cool too. Let's see. Also, just a couple more weeks is the Paradigm Symposium, where all those great people from the Ancient Alien Show, Eric Von Donigan, Giorgio Zouklos, the guy with the hair, Philip Coppens, but then a lot of the other good friends of Just Energy Radio, Marie Jones, Larry Flaxman, Nick Redfern, who has a cot here in the studio, Laird Scranton, a bunch of people that you've heard on the show are all going to be at this conference. Well worth showing up. And one of the things I found out recently is that the exhibit hall is going to be open to the general public. So if you just want to come, bring your books, get them signed, meet Eric, hang out with Giorgio. You don't have to pay to get in. You can just come and hang out in the exhibit hall, which is where I'll be, and you can hang out with me. And that's really cool, too. But as always, Just Energy Radio is brought to you by SoulHealer.com and the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And please do go by the Just Energy Radio website and sign up for our weekly newsletter to keep you informed of the guests that are coming up on the show. Okay. Phew. That was a lot of announcements today. But let me tell you about this week's guest, because I think this interview is going to be fascinating. We're going to be talking to Rita Romanek about extraterrestrial contact. So Lisa works side by side with her husband, Stan Romanek, as he becomes a national spokesman for abductees worldwide. Most people would run away from this responsibility, but Lisa knows that what has crashed upon her, quote unquote, must be turned into a legacy that will benefit her children, who have suffered quietly I'm sitting here reading through a microphone. I should read with one eye. Have suffered quietly the most through the glare of criticism and judgment of the public. So the author of My Side of the Bed, and her webpage, well, we won't say the webpage, Lisa Romanek. Hey, Lisa, are you there?
Hi, Rita. Yes, I am.
I am so glad to have you on the show. When I saw your book, My Side of the Bed, and I was just like, oh, I need to have this lady on, because you never hear from, anyone else in the abduction experience's point of view except the abductee. And so the place that I want to start is, okay, so your husband has been abducted, but what prompted you to tell your story and give your point of view?
Oh, gosh. Well, Stan's experiences started in 2000, and I actually married him in 2002, and he was abducted again for the second time about 4 months after we were married. And, at that point I thought, gosh, if I had anyone who could tell me what they had experienced as a spouse, maybe that would have helped me understand how to cope with it, how to, not resort to the anger and the frustration that I did go through. So, after all these years, 12 years later, I decided that if I could be that person to help someone else not have to suffer and feel like they were alone, I wanted to do that for them.
Great. So you said that Stan's first abduction experience was in 2000. But then you still decided to marry him.
Yes, I did.
Did you know about that his experience and what happened to him?
Well, his experiences actually started in 2000, which started out with a very large UFO sighting. There were other people there, and in 2001, September of 2001, was his first abduction. And at that time, I started to question whether this guy was nuts. Honestly, it's like, okay, what are the chances of this guy that I'd fallen in love with seeing UFOs constantly and then being abducted? But the more he told me about it, the more I believed it. And I knew that he needed my support. And and in my book, I talk about, if Stan had cancer, would I have walked away? No. And this is no different. He had no choice in this. And so I had to stay and I had to help him through it.
Prior to you meeting Stan and hearing his story, did you believe in UFO? Did you think that it was just some, weirdo thing that people talk about? Or, kind of where were you in that whole spectrum?
No, actually, I was the believer. I grew up in Nebraska where no one talked about it, but I don't know. It wasn't even that I believed it, that I knew they were there. Somehow I just knew they were real. These extraterrestrial beings were actually out there. And when I met Stan, and after he had his first sighting, we finally had that discussion. And he was not a believer.
So Stan didn't believe in UFOs?
Not at all. He thought anyone who did was a crackpot.
Well, what's his background? You find like people that have an engineering kind of background, scientific background, have a harder time believing in something like, UFOs or ghosts or, anything in that kind of fringy area. What was his background in the first place?
He's a jack of all trades. Stan was at one time a renowned Native American flute player. He was a fashion designer. He was a graphic artist. He was an Olympic cyclist. He's had a lot of really amazing experiences in his life. But his problem is he gets bored with them, and he moves on to something else. So for some reason, he can't get bored with being abducted, apparently. So.
Well, it sounds like they're not bored of him yet.
Yeah. But, I mean, he grew up in a military family. He had some college training in computer repair, how computers work and how to fix them with viruses, thank goodness. Otherwise, he was not really a closed-minded individual. He just, for some reason, couldn't wrap his brain around UFOs or extraterrestrials. Ghosts, he could kind of handle.
Cool. Interesting. So then you guys got married. So there's this maybe weird stuff going on, and you get married. So then what happens? You made the comment that 4 months after you got married, he had some other kind of encounter?
Yes. And it was...
What happened?
It was very devastating, actually. His second abduction was, like I said, 4 months after we got married. It was just a normal day. We'd moved once already because he was afraid that the extraterrestrials had found us. A lot of really strange things had been happening. And so it was about, 2 months after we moved to this new home. And normal night, went to bed. Another night I woke up and I could just hear this banging on the bedroom window. It scared the life out of me. But I could hear Stan outside yelling, "Lisa, help me. Just let me in the house. Help me." And I peeked through the blinds and was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Ran to the family room door and let him in. And Nebraska in November is freezing. Very, very, very cold. So I got him in the house and he was like kind of bluish. He was so cold. And I said, "How did you get outside?" And he says, "I don't know. I don't remember anything besides waking up in the yard." So, I got him in, got him warmed up, and I went to hug him, and I felt my hand hit this patch of dry sores. I was like, oh my gosh, it's happened again. I'm so sorry. And he threw up, or he went to throw up, and he had something in his hand. He dropped it on the counter and ran. Well, in the process of him being gone, I'm trying to figure out how did he get outside. I had to unlock the door to let him in. All the doors were locked from the inside. And it's not just a little button lock on the door. We had slide bolts, we had chain locks. There's no way for him to get out there.
You were really intent on keeping those aliens out, huh?
Not so much me, but Stan. I think after the first experience, which was a couple years, before, or a year before, it just became such a fear for him that if anything got in, they could take him out. So the doors had to have extra locks on them. The windows had to be locked every night. It was just a process that he went through of making sure everything was locked. So, yeah.
By the time he had that second experience, did he understand what was going on with him? I mean, did you guys know what was going on with him? Or was it like, he wakes you up in the middle of the night and he's banging on the window and you're all going, what the heck? When did you come to the realization that there was something otherworldly happening?
Well, from about mid-2001, he had contacted MUFON out of Denver, and he actually had an investigator working with him. So we were very much aware of what was happening, just very afraid. It's very hard to explain to anyone who hasn't gone through it how afraid you are. But yes, we were quite aware, and we didn't sleep very, very much at night. We just didn't, for fear that it would happen again. And it did eventually, over and over again.
One of the things that you made the comment was that he was constantly seeing UFOs in the sky, like they were following him around. Can you talk about that for a second?
Sure. Well, the first one was December, I think, 26th, 2000. That was his first initial, oh my gosh, UFOs are real. But at the same time, kept telling himself there's a possibility that he was nuts. He had, 4 sightings within the span of probably the next year. My first sighting was in September of 2001. We'd taken a trip to Pennsylvania. And we actually saw 2 craft on that trip, one going into Pennsylvania and one on the way back to Nebraska from Pennsylvania. The night of his first abduction, he saw a UFO over at the store he worked in. And the customers came running back in and say, you need to come out here and see this thing. It's like huge, it's red. And anyone who wants to see these objects, the photographs or videos of them, can just Google Stan Romanek on YouTube or on his website. He has a lot of the pictures of them on there.
So you saw this craft, and it sounds like a bunch of other people saw this craft.
Yes. And that's what's really unique about what Stan and I have gone through. You know, there's always other people who see them with us. It's not just us seeing them. Because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, it's like I can't think what they call it. It's like mass.
Like a mass hallucination kind of thing?
Yes. It's like, how do you project that in someone else's head when you have 150 people standing on the steps of a church seeing it with you? You know, I don't understand that concept. I really don't. But there's always witnesses to a lot. I mean, 3/4 of the stuff that's happened in our lives, there's been witnesses to it. Yeah.
With the sightings, you know, whether you've seen them or from Stan's input, is it typically the same type of craft? Is it a different type of craft that he's observing?
Oh, all different kinds of them. It's fascinating because it's like driving down the interstate in rush hour. It's like all the different shapes and kinds of vehicles that you come across. It's like that. You know, there's just so many different shapes, sizes of these crafts. I personally have seen 3 black triangle crafts. They came over our house, absolutely silent, no lights, no nothing. We've seen the disc craft, the silver disc, like on the sci-fi movies. Stan's first one was like a black, silver, I can't even tell you, round ball with 4 balls on the bottom of it. There's cylinder ones, the lights. They just look like lights in the sky. And they line up in different patterns. They do just strange things.
You mentioned the black triangular ones. Are we talking something that looked like the craft from the Phoenix Lights? You know, a huge thing over your house, or smaller?
They were smaller than that, yeah, because they were fairly low. Because the night that I saw them, well, Stan was with me, but you know how the city lights reflect on like low clouds, and it gives it that orange glow. They were lower than that. So I would say they were probably like maybe the size of I can't even tell you how big they were, but like you would see a plane coming into an airport, that low.
Wow.
In that size. I mean, they were large, but not like miles long. Yeah.
I mean, that just must be kind of freaky to have that kind of experience. I've never had a UFO experience, and so, you know, it's a little hard for me on one level to relate, even though people ask me that all the time. It's like, no, I just see ghosts. You know, I don't have UFOs following me around, just ghosts, which, you know, is fun enough by itself.
Yes, it is. I've always seen ghosts ever since I was a young girl. My daughters, April and Nikki, have seen ghosts since they were very young also. But I find it interesting that once you have contact with either realm, they kind of seem to blend. It's like once that doorway's open, the others know it's safe to come in because you're very aware of and accepting of that other realm.
Any thoughts on what they want, what they see in Stan, why they're following you guys around? And actually, I want to ask like a little extra piece. Do you think it's the same ones, or is it different ones that are all interested in him?
We call them the Orions, and that's what we've learned is that the beings in contact with Stan are from the Orion system. Some of them look like the Greys. Some of them look like very tall blue beings of light, but they work together. Stan's had a couple of experiences that were not nice. He's encountered a mantis being, never a reptilian being. Those, I think, are very scary. But for the most part, his experiences haven't been terrifying to the point of meaning to cause harm or meaning to terrorize him. A lot of people have those experiences. What we believe is that they simply want Stan to be a messenger, to share his experiences so that other people will not be afraid, so that other people can start accepting that if not the reality that they are there, then at least the possibility, just to open their minds to the possibility of it.
Like you could send me an email, it would be easier.
Yeah.
Or the footage, or whatever.
But why Stan? We've asked that question for 12 years. It's like, why? Why Stan? He's no one special. He's not like a rocket scientist by any means. He's just a normal guy who is very stubborn and won't give up, Well,
I mean, there are people that make the comment that, they abduct people because they have a certain kind of blood or genetic profile. What do you think of that whole concept?
Well, I agree with the possibility of it. I don't know why one person's genetics would be different than anyone else's genetics. Why one to certain extraterrestrial groups is more important. If we all have the same DNA structure, what difference does it make what the genetic, the whole thing doesn't make sense to me. I have the RH negative factor, Stan does not. A lot of people think that the RH factor has something to do with it. It is very much out of my realm of understanding that. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, and some of this is it's a mystery of what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
Why I wish I had all the answers.
I'm sure you do. Okay, so Stan is abducted. Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, it's the middle of the night, and I don't know. I guess where I want to go is, so there's this thing playing out, and then at the end, you guys figure out that he's been abducted. Mm-hmm. What's going on with you? I mean, is it like a normal night? You go to bed, or is there a part of you that has like a little spidey sense like, God, there's something weird going on? I mean, what's going on with you? Because the part that I find fascinating about your story is that you're the observer to this phenomena.
Yeah.
You're the firsthand eyewitness to the phenomena. So what's going on your end while all of this is going on? And it might be that you're just sleeping. I don't know.
Well, in the beginning, after I finally got, Stan tells people I forced him to marry me. But after I convinced him that was the right thing to do, our nightly routine was, like I said, Dan would totally lock the house. We'd go to bed and just stay awake. And we didn't sleep much for 3 years. Fear just controlled every moment of our lives. And during the day, Stan would have flashbacks of what he had experienced before. So it was very much an emotional battleground. It really was, where I was, I had a full-time job. I worked with Alzheimer's patients, which is stressful enough in itself. But after Stan's second abduction, he changed. He became very angry, very frustrated, very just different. And I think fear was a lot of his problem. He was just so controlled by his own fear, which brought about a lot of anger on both sides. The kids, didn't know what the heck was going on. We left them out of it as much as possible. That's the way life was. It was just constant anger and fear and frustration.
And so with all of these situations that were going on, you talked about his second abduction and, you woke up to him banging on the window.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm just kind of throwing this question out because, I'm curious. Were there ever any situations that you woke up while the encounter was happening? I mean, did you ever see any of the beings? Did you see him float through the wall? I mean, any of that juicy stuff?
No. I have personally not consciously ever seen a being. Stan has, other people have who are with Stan, but I never have. And I have a theory about that I'm the kind of person who hugs everyone, so that kind of puts them off. They don't want to be squeezed to death, Now that I'm not afraid of them, I think that's their thing. I did wake up while Stan was missing on one occasion. Otherwise, it's like they turn you off. It's like everyone in your neighborhood is in a deep sleep that you can't wake up from. That's why it takes so much of the banging on the windows to wake me up, because he says he was out there for a good 20, 30 minutes. When you're afraid that could be 5, but
wow.
The one time that I woke up and could not find him, I literally had to search the house in total darkness because the power was out, which happens when he's taken. And that event was, in 2006, pretty sure. And he was going in for surgery the next day. He had hurt his leg. And that night he just kept asking me, he's like, can we pray? Can we, talk about this? Can I not go to surgery? I mean, anything and everything to talk himself out of going through with it the next day. So we prayed and we talked. It got to the point where it's like, go to sleep right now, to stop. And it was 2:00 in the morning, and I woke up. It's like something just startled me awake, and I was just sitting up. It's like, what the heck? Stan was missing. The lights were out. Couldn't find him. And I went room to room from our bedroom outward. I mean, kicking corners, flipping on lights that didn't work, but you know how your brain is when you're asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the kitchen door, and I unbolted it, unlocked it, opened it up, and just yelled, Stan, where are you? He didn't answer me. I left the door open. Finally went out the front door, had been locked, go out there, because the breaker boxes were in the garage. Got some of the breakers flipped back on, came back in, there he was. Every other abduction prior to this, and that I know of and have documented, there have been 11 of them. Every other abduction, I was very able to document. I took the photos. I wrote down everything he remembered, videotape, whatever. I did it. But that night, it was just, I couldn't. My mind wouldn't work. It was just like, I'm going back to bed. As soon as I found him, dealt with his issues, because he had, and this is going to be pretty graphic, and I'm really sorry, but he was walking up the stairs in front of me, and I said, Stan, you need to change your underwear. And he's like, what is your problem? It's like, just go to the bathroom, get changed. Because in his mind, at that moment, I was the one that was missing. He didn't realize that anything had happened to him. Excuse me. So when he went into the bathroom, he, flipped on the light, had blood on his face, and it finally registered what had happened. He had, like I said, blood on his face, blood on his underwear. And I said, I'm going back to bed. And as soon as he was cleaned up, he came back to bed. That was the end of it. The next morning, I got up, went about my morning routine to go to work, made my coffee, went out on the deck, and I saw this huge circle in our yard. And it's like, oh, man. So I went back and I told Stan, I said, you need to get up. We need to document this stuff. I have to be to work in an hour. And he starts walking around the room, and it clicked in my mind what was missing, or what was different. He went to bed that night with a knee immobilizer. Those immobilizers for your legs that go from your thigh down to your ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Got the knobs and ratchets, whatever. He wasn't wearing it. He wasn't limping, nothing. And I said, Stan, do you notice something different? And he's like, what? I said, your leg. He's like, what the heck? Well, when he turned to look down, he had 5 holes down the side of his leg. All the bruising was gone. All the swelling was gone. All that was there was those 5 dried, scabby holes. Didn't need surgery anymore.
Oh, and that's where he was going to have the surgery done on.
The next morning,
that day. Whoa.
Yeah. So that's the day that my fear of the extraterrestrials went away. It's like, if they're willing to help and to fix that, then they can't be all bad.
Well, when did you decide that what was going on wasn't Stan's imagination and that there was really something going on? What was that turning point for you?
Oh. When I saw my first UFO. I think so. And that was, maybe a week and a half before his first abduction. Because seeing it for yourself actually solidifies it in your mind. It's like, why is this happening? Why am I now being able to see them when I searched for them all my life? Why now? Why with Stan? Why, all those questions came up. But that's when I actually could say, this is real. This is really happening. And then after Stan's abduction, like I said, I went through that processing of, okay, maybe I found a weirdo, maybe I should just get away from this guy before he's, nuttiness rubs off on me. But after watching his regression from that abduction and watching him relive, not remember, but relive those events, it was incredible. I mean, there is no way in my mind after that he was making it up, that he had imagined it, that it was a dream. Because it was pretty intense.
Do the encounters always happen at home?
No.
Wherever that home might possibly be?
No, it sure doesn't. We had a friend that had a cabin up in the mountains here in Colorado. And for some reason, every time we went to that cabin, Stan was taken. To the point where Stan didn't want to go there anymore. But for some reason, it was a good getaway. You know, it was a relaxing place. And maybe, you know, they were done with him. That was his way of thinking of it. Maybe they won't take me. So it happens other places as well.
Well, and when this is happening, I mean, if you're at somebody else's house, you know, is anybody else being affected, or does anybody else have any recall of these events? Or
well, only if they were taken with him, which has happened. Okay,
well, that's a little scary. Like, maybe I don't want to come stay at your house ever.
A lot of people feel that way. The other 35%, you know, or so decides that it would be a good time to come stay here.
Well, you know, that's like spending the night in a haunted house. You know, like to a ghost hunter, it's like, woohoo, yeah, let's turn all the lights off and have this ghost come out. You know, it's like, and I do ghost hunting, and it's like, nah, we could leave the light on. That's okay.
My kids still sleep with night lights, and my daughters are going to be 24.
Uh-huh.
So they've lived this life for too long, and they're just scary to them.
Well, how did they take this whole thing? I mean, did they have experiences of their own? Did they see the UFOs? How did they fit into this whole picture?
My son, when he was 8 years old, was taken. That was shortly after I married Stan, and Stan would not talk about his experiences. He wouldn't do what he needed to be doing. So I think it was a message to him that if you won't help us get the message across, then we'll find someone else who can. And he was young, and like I said before, we didn't talk to the kids about any of this stuff. They knew Stan had a UFO sighting. They thought that was really cool. Otherwise, they were very ignorant to the whole situation, the abductions and all. So when this happened to him, he had written an equation on his wall, and the picture of it's in my book. And when he woke up, it's like, I didn't do that. It's like, don't worry about it, Jake. Stan writes stuff like this too, you know. He's like, no. He said, the burglars came in to steal my Mountain Dew. Well, number one, my kid didn't go to bed with Mountain Dew. But later on, he finally admitted, he says, I know it wasn't burglars. He says it was aliens. And he said, I just didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to be mad that I was making something up. It's like, okay, well, now you know, because this is after we told the kids about all of it. So, yes, my kids have experienced stuff. My daughters, neither one like to talk about it at all. My son's like Stan. He misses them when they're not around. But for the most part, my girls have experienced things like the shadow people. And some people think that they're spirits. Some people believe that it's extraterrestrial technology as a cloaking. And we don't know. We've never figured out for sure what these shadow people are. Only that they hover around my daughters a lot still. But they, my son will talk about it till the sun comes up, My daughters like to tell people they have no opinion. They don't want to talk about it. It's too scary. If they ignore it, it's not real. And that's how they get through their day.
Well, and I can understand, it's like being, and I'm trying to think of somebody, like it's being the child of, the President of the United States or the child of John Lennon, or, it's kind of like they're automatically on some level thrust into the spotlight because the more your guys' story gets out, they're just kind of caught up with it.
Yes. And the only thing that's really protected them is the fact that their last name is not the same as mine. So Stan is my second husband. But they have to deal with, seeing anything about Stan or I online, on TV, their friends know who we are. So they really deal with a lot of criticism from that.
What made you guys decide to go public and move forward with sharing your story? I mean, because from the criticism and judgment point of view, I could see where it would just be really challenging and a lot of, name calling that would happen.
Yes. Recently, I read a comment that because I'm new to radio, I'm not believable. It's like, it's not about me being believable enough for you. I'm trying to explain my situation, Stan's situation, move on. It's not for me to convince anyone that any of this is real. It's just to tell my story. I don't think I know what your question was now. I got off my track.
Well, just about the whole part of moving forward. I mean, there are so many people that have experiences and they choose not to tell anybody and suffer in silence. What made you guys decide to step forward and step into the public eye?
Well, for many years we had stayed in hiding. We, Stan did some radio shows on Coast to Coast with, Jeff Rance, a few things like that. But for the most part, no one knew where we were or who we were. And we moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado. And our house was broken into 2 weeks after we moved in. The threats were really bad about keep your mouth shut or else. And the or else was not pleasant. And we were told that the only way to keep ourselves and our children safe was to be in the public eye, to talk as much as possible, to share as much as we could, because that was the only thing that would keep us from being harmed. And, some people could be rolling their eyes right now, but trust me, when Stan's getting the heck beat out of him, broken nose, broken wrist, and being told to keep his mouth shut about the UFO stuff, he'd start taking it seriously. When people are threatening to kill you and your children, you take it seriously. So that was our reasoning for finally saying, okay, call us names, say what you will. We don't care anymore because our safety and the safety of the children was more important than the names. Mm-hmm. To be, people thinking we're nuts. We don't care anymore because at least now people know who we are. They know what we have to say. And we're better off because if something does happen to one of us or both of us, hopefully someone out there will ask questions.
Are you saying that the government or the Men in Black or whoever those people are have been after you, or do you think it's somebody else?
I've never had a Men in Black encounter. That would have made it really much easier to deal with. Had these Men in Black showed up at the door and said, "Okay, people, this is the way it is." With us, it was very secretive. Where they'd break in, they'd take things, they'd leave things, they'd listening devices. They take our UFO files. They would, whatever. Helicopters hovering over our house all the time. Black, unmarked. Stan, in 2008, was doing yard work and had a couple of interactions with an individual sitting in a car crossing down the street from our house. That same evening, he went out and he's like, I'm just going to go see if that guy's back. Because at first he thought, well, if it's a pedophile in our neighborhood, we need him to be caught, because it was somebody weird. And he went out there as he got to the street to look down. It was a combination of three things happening at once. This huge orb came past him and over our house. the shot rang out, and he felt and heard the bullet whiz past his head. So had the orb not come past him to make him move and look back, the bullet would have hit him in the head.
It just makes you go, okay, so there's this whole contingency of people that say, well, UFOs aren't real.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole contingency that says you guys are crazy, but in the same time, you have this other weird stuff happening. I mean, that's dangerous.
Yeah. We have police reports of everything that's happened. We're not afraid to call the police. They know who we are. We have cell phone numbers of some of the officers in our town. They just call us if you need us, on or off duty.
I mean, I think if it were me, I would have my whole house totally wired with video cameras and under complete surveillance, both inside, just in case you get abducted and maybe you'll get it on film, with battery backup, on the outside for that kind of behavior that's being, done to you.
Well, the problem with that is we did that for almost 4 years. They cut the surveillance, literally destroy the equipment. You replace it, it happens again. So, we got to the point where it's enough. I'm tired of running, because we moved 7 times in 7 years. Constantly running. And it just, like I said, we're just enough. I will not live in fear. And we don't anymore. It's do what you're going to do. We know we're protected now. It's obvious, You
mentioned video and some other kinds of evidence. So what kinds of evidence have you collected? And this is kind of a two-part question. And I'll just keep this confined. How serious does the UFO community take of what you guys have provided?
That's really difficult. The physical evidence consists of a nightgown that has a protein that's unidentifiable, and it also has a substance on it that resembles polyvinyl pyrrolidone, which is used in vitro fertilization here. We have the stuff Stan came back from in his second abduction, the substance, what's it called? I can't think what it's called. Anyway, a lot of physical evidence. We've had sighting that's been affected by a craft, and all these things have been looked at by scientists. They have written their reports stating that, this is what it is. This is similar. This is unidentifiable. This is something that I have never seen before. They're analytical chemists. They're, trained, very non-UFO scientists that are looking at this. The 2 circles we've had in our yard, we've taken soil samples of those, had them tested. They had meteorite particles in them that we were told could only happen or be deposited in that quantity if something came through our ionosphere and deposited them in our soil. They were very localized. We have pictures of and videos of UFOs, extraterrestrials. We have a lot of researchers that have witnessed this stuff with us, and just the public, people who have seen it with us. How does the UFO community see us? A lot of them believe us, more and more so. Others still don't know what to think. They don't want to be involved with us just in case, someone is perpetrating it against us. There's always people who are too afraid to step in and say, I believe you. I believe this evidence. Where else could you get it? But it looks bad on their reputations if they just step up and do that, and it's really sad. That's how it is in the UFO community.
That's how it is in every community.
Yeah.
Have he been evaluated for things like implants?
Yes. He's actually had one implant removed, and a well-known university has actually done the analysis on that. And they seem to think, and it was very small, like, gosh, the pictures are on his website, I'm sure. But it exploded by sound, and the 4 pieces that remained were smaller than the end of a pencil eraser. I mean, very small total piece, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Teardrop shaped. So he's had that taken out. He's also been scanned, and they know that there's at least 4 more in there. We've been told that if they take them out, if we take them out, they will put them back. They're there to monitor him, track him, whatever they're supposed to be doing.
4 more? I mean, I've heard of people having 1 or maybe 2, but 4?
Yeah, 4.
You know, it just makes me wonder, well, is it 4 different groups following them along? You know, because they all have to put their own little, you know, signal device in there?
It's a good possibility. I wish I could get a hold of one of those little guys and have some conversations. It's like, what are you doing?
I could just see you doing that, too.
There are nights I sit out back in the dark. I used to be terrified of the dark. I'm not anymore. I'm not afraid of a whole lot of anything now. But I just, you know, go out there. It's like, come on. I won't hug you. I won't touch you. I won't react in fear. Warn me before you come up so I'm not startled. But let's have a conversation. I have questions. I need answers.
Really?
They won't.
When was the last encounter? I mean, have things calmed down? Is it more active now? What's going on in the more contemporary time?
Well, Stan's experience has changed from the little beings that look like grays that aren't, to an encounter with a tall blue being of light who says, "You call us Elohim."
Okay, well, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah. So, and that basically the angelics are coming back to help the people of Earth and are working with the extraterrestrials to do so. Wild, huh?
Actually, not so wild. Not so wild. I mean, what's interesting, you know, in my book, the one that I'm just releasing, Man-Made, The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, not trying to give myself a pitch here, but even mythology talks about these warring races that kind of step into the background. And so it doesn't surprise me that there are multiple groups of ETs and how one group might want to help mankind and another group might not want to.
Yeah. And there are many, many out there who want us to succeed and many, many who do not. Same way here on Earth. You know, we have the good guys and the bad guys. The elite, the not. You know, the people who just want to make it, want to know the truth, and those who don't want us to know any of it. My brain gets tired of thinking sometimes because there's so much. Gosh.
Well, I can just only imagine. So has Stan calmed down?
Oh, yeah. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he does it now.
So what is he supposed to do, and what is he doing now?
He's written 3 books. He lectures all over. And, you know, he's just trying to help enlighten the human race that the extraterrestrials are real. That's it. It's pretty simple. But as we've been told, it's a very daunting task.
Well, there's a lot of disbelief that people have, Yeah, it's interesting because I think on some levels people believe that there are extraterrestrials, because they've been exposed to them, but not in reality. It's more of a fiction thing.
Mhm. That's how it begins, though.
Mhm.
I think, and we talk about this stuff all the time, but when you look at the cartoons, the TV shows, the movies, it's all coming around to the paranormal. They are the most watched and enjoyed programs on television and at the theaters. People are curious. They want to know, and they're finally being told in an entertainment yet scary entertainment way.
But it brings it to our consciousness, and it brings it to our awareness as being a possibility.
Yes. And it's like the movie Paul. Did you see that?
I'm trying to... Was that the cartoon?
No, it was two guys from the UK came to the United States to check out all the cool spots, Area 51, Comic-Con, and they came across an extraterrestrial who has an attitude.
No, I guess I have not seen that one.
You have to watch it. It'll make you laugh. My son wanted his own Paul. I'm sure every kid in town did. That's the kind of movies we need, the ones who show, a fun side of what could be, not just the terrifying, oh my gosh, they're coming to destroy the world, they're going to take us over. If they wanted to do that, they could have done it way, way, way back when.
So we only have 2 more minutes. Where do you go from here, Lisa? What's your next step or place?
Well, I just recently started lecturing, and that's my next thing, is just talk about what I've experienced, talk about what I've experienced with Stan, and just share that, we have to shift the consciousness. We have to balance the feminine and the masculine energies on this planet in order to make it through. Can't be one or the other. It's got to be a balance. Just a lot of things like that where people just need to wake up and start questioning things around them.
It just makes me wonder, what's the end game? What's their end game? Not our end game, their end game. And where, as a planet, as people, it's going.
Well, that's $1 million question.
I'm good at those. Not necessarily the answers, but the questions.
Me either. All we can hope for is the best, When you put that positive energy into our world, will be clean and safe. That's where we'll be. If you put your mind to 2012 is going to be doomsday, you're giving energy to the darkness. And I don't encourage that. I tell everyone, stay in the light.
And do you think that that's what they want for us?
I think they want us to succeed for the most part, because we are very much a unique place. We as humans interact with other species and make them very much a part of our family. Cats, dogs, pigs, you name it. We're able to bring in these other species and have them be part of our family. And I think that's one of just a very small part of what fascinates them about us, because no other species can do that.
This is true. Lisa, our time is up. So if somebody wants to get a copy of your book, where would they go find it?
On Amazon.com. I would not recommend going to my website at this time because it's got some issues no one wants. So go to Amazon. Connect with me on Facebook. Yep.
Okay. And so Facebook would be Lisa Romanek?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show. The music is going to be coming up here in one quick second. So
thank you for having me, Rita.
Thanks for coming on, Lisa, and keep up your good work.
Thank you. I'll try my best.
Okay. That's Lisa Romanek. Her book is My Side of the Bed. You can get it on Amazon.com. And we'll be back with Jay Wiedner after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.